That afternoon, the sun spread a golden blanket over the fields, and the wind whispered across the water. Allie sat by the riverbank, resting her chin on her hands, watching time drift by like a lazy cat. Beside her, her sister kept turning the pages of a book without pictures or dialogue. A book meant for those who had forgotten how to dream. Allie yawned softly. Everything was too still, too orderly, so much so that she could hear her own sigh echoing back to her. Then suddenly, that world cracked open. A fleeting figure dashed past. Mr. White Rabbit, in a tiny waistcoat holding a gleaming pocket watch. "Oh dear, I shall be late," he exclaimed, as though time itself were chasing him. In that instant, all reason dissolved. Without hesitation, Allie sprang to her feet, ran after the White Rabbit, and vanished. No one knew how long she fell. Perhaps only a few seconds, or maybe an entire lifetime. She fell through layers of memory, through the drawers of the soul where forgotten things still lived, breathed, and waited to be seen again. From that moment on, Allie didn't just step into Wonderland. She stepped into her own mind, where reason meets madness, and darkness whispers the secrets of light. And that was where every journey of awakening begins. Part 1. The Call of Curiosity. That noon, the sky seemed covered by a thin ivory veil, and the sunlight fell so gently upon the river that even time appeared to pause. Allie sat by the bank, resting her chin on her hand, watching the ripples lazily reflect the heavens above. Beside her, her sister was still absorbed in a book without pictures or dialogue, a book full of words but devoid of soul. The world around Allie suddenly felt so dull, so sleepy, that she could almost hear the silence breathe. Then, amid that stillness, something utterly irrational happened. A rabbit, wearing a waistcoat and glasses, holding a pocket watch, ran by shouting, "Oh dear, I shall be late." That voice rang like a bell inside her, awakening a deep part of Allie that had long been waiting for something to shatter the walls of the ordinary. She leapt to her feet. No thinking, no hesitation. Allie dashed after that figure as if bewitched. Her feet brushed over grass, past the trees, down the narrow path leading into the rabbit hole. And the world of reason broke apart. She fell, endlessly, through strange layers of space, bookshelves drifting past, jars of jam spinning slowly in midair, maps and clocks swirling around her like fragments of scattered memories. And yet, Allie was not afraid. She only felt curious. The laws of reality seemed to twist and bend, but instead of panic, a smile touched her lips. As Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." The moment Allie began to fall was also the moment she began to descend into her own mind. Once, Allie lived in the world of adults, a world where logic ruled, where every question required a reasonable answer. But that White Rabbit, with his trembling watch and anxious eyes, was the symbol of meaningful absurdity, a call from the unconscious, inviting Allie to abandon certainty and explore the unknown. Through Jung's lens, the rabbit is not just a fairy tale creature, but the archetype of the guide, the one who opens the gate between consciousness and the unconscious. He leads Allie beyond the material world, into the depths where the soul resides. Each of us has our own white rabbit, an event, a dream, or a feeling that pulls us away from the everyday, back toward our true self. The riverbank, it's where Allie first sat, symbolized the safe realm of reason. It is the place where one feels in control, yet where the soul slowly grows silent. Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Allie did this instinctively. She accepted her curiosity, her fear, and stepped willingly into the abyss of her own unconscious. That moment of chasing the rabbit marks the beginning of ego dissolution, when she left her sister, the embodiment of reason and order. Allie separated from the light to enter the shadow. Curiosity became the key that unlocked the first door of individuation, the process of self-realization that Jung considered the ultimate goal of human life. And what makes that journey so wondrous lies in its simplicity. A girl, a rabbit, a faint, mysterious call. Life often begins this way, a small sign carrying an immense invitation. We can remain forever by our riverbank, reading books without pictures. Or we can rise and follow the call we don't yet understand. Curiosity, then, is not mere desire for knowledge. It is the longing of the soul to return to itself. For Allie, curiosity was not a childish impulse. It was the sacred calling of her inner world. She had no idea that beyond that door awaited chaos, trials that would break, distort, and remake her ego. But as Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And so, she fell deeply through layers of illusion, through regions of tears and light, until the outer world became nothing but a distant echo. She was falling inward, into the place where the unacknowledged waits to be met. To adults, such an act would seem madness. But to the soul, it is initiation. The white rabbit is memory, symbol, and invitation from the shadow. Follow me if you dare. And Allie, with a heart still untouched by cynicism, dared. That is why the opening of Alice in Wonderland still moves readers after more than a century. Because each of us has once been Allie. We have all glimpsed our own white rabbit, a chance, a crisis, or a dream, and had to choose to stay or to go. Allie chose to go, and from that moment on, she was no longer the bored child by the river. She became a pilgrim of the soul, one who traded safety for truth in the dark. In Jung's world, curiosity is not merely an emotion. It is the voice of the soul calling toward wholeness. It is the impulse that drives us to explore the unknown, confront the hidden, and ultimately unite with ourselves. Allie's story, therefore, is not just about a girl. It is an allegory of every human being. Each time we pause to listen to the white rabbit within, we begin a new journey. For as Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And Allie, in that moment, falling away from the shore of reason, had begun that very privilege, the journey of becoming herself. Part 2. Falling into the unconscious. Allie ran after the white rabbit, her heart beating so fast she could almost hear it echoing inside her chest. The little creature vanished into a hole beneath the roots of an ancient tree, no larger than a well, yet dark and endless, like a gaze stretching into eternity. Without a single thought, she leaned closer, and as if pulled by an invisible hand, Allie fell. She kept falling, no scream, no fear, only a strange sensation, something between dreaming and waking. Around her, objects floated slowly through the air. A jar labeled orange marmalade, an old map, shelves sliding past, and sometimes even portraits drifting like ghosts. She was falling through a library of the mind, a place where everything, once familiar in her old world, now seemed strangely distant. Time appeared to stop. There was no up or down, no direction anymore. All that remained was a gentle motion, aimless, destinationless. And curiously, Allie felt no fear, only confusion, as though her soul was descending a path that had always existed, one she had simply never noticed before. She tried to touch one of the passing shelves, but her fingertips met only air. A few papers fluttered around her like fragments of memory, and she caught a glimpse of her own name. Then it vanished. "Where am I going?" Allie whispered to herself. No one answered. Only the soft echo of her own voice dissolved into the dark. As she fell, Allie realized something wondrous. Everything that had once defined her rational world, the rules, the teachings, the boundaries, was melting away like ink in water. She could no longer tell if she was dreaming or awake, alive or slipping into another reality. But in that in-between, within the chaos and uncertainty, she felt a new kind of life beginning to breathe. Carl Jung once wrote, One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that was exactly what was happening to Allie. She did not find light at the end of the tunnel. She was beginning to see the darkness within herself, the part she had never dared to touch. This fall was not merely a loss of control. It was a ritual of surrender. When she left the riverbank at noon, where her sisters still read that dry, lifeless book, Allie had abandoned the world of reason in order to enter the realm of emotion and symbol. As Jung said, the journey to the self is a descent. You must go down to climb up. In that fall, Allie was descending through layers of her own being. Each shelf, each object, each image was a symbol of memories, of forgotten things. She fell through her childhood, through her dreams, through the invisible fears of long nights, through the words never spoken. She didn't know it yet, but by falling, she was doing what every soul must eventually learn: to face the unconscious. Nothing in this fall was accidental. The rabbit hole was a doorway, a portal into the dark side of the mind, where consciousness and the unconscious meet. There, time ceased to be linear. It became a spiral where all past memories and future possibilities blended into one continuous stream. Allie could not have known, but this fall was the first step in the process of individuation, the sacred union between the light and the shadow within the soul. As she began to grow familiar with the sensation of floating, the darkness turned softer. She started to notice its strange beauty, the peace hidden in uncertainty. Below her, there were no voices, no laws, no time, only herself, slowly becoming transparent within infinite space. And then gently, like a breath, Allie touched the ground. No sound, no pain, only a stillness so deep that even silence seemed to disappear. She stood up and looked around. A long hallway stretched before her, shimmering with dim light. She didn't know where she was, but her heartbeat slowed into calmness. It felt as if she had just awakened from a dream, not one that took something away, but one that transformed her. Something within had been stirred, something she hadn't felt in a long time. The curiosity of the soul. That fall, seen through Jung's eyes, was the symbol of transformation. It was the moment when a person is forced to leave the realm of consciousness, where everything is structured, and descend into the unexplored land of the self. Only in that darkness does true light begin to form. Allie had fallen, and she was no longer the little girl by the riverbank. She'd crossed the threshold between two worlds, between reality and dream, between reason and soul, between the self and the deeper self. And in that profound silence, she smiled faintly. She didn't yet know that the real journey had only just begun. But somewhere within her, a voice rose softly, the voice of the unconscious, whispering, "Welcome home." Part 3. Doors, Keys, and Transformations. When the last shimmer of her fall faded away, Allie found herself standing in an endless hallway. On the curved walls, like ripples frozen in motion, dozens of doors appeared, each painted a different color: a red one, like blood, a blue one like dawn, a black one as deep as a dream that never wakes. All of them were locked. She tried every handle, turning, pushing, knocking, but every door remained silent, as though guarding a secret. The only sound in the vast corridor was her own footsteps, soft and hollow. She felt as if she were wandering inside a labyrinth, not made of stone walls, but of her own mind. And then, in the middle of the cold marble floor, she saw a small glass table. On it lay a golden key. It glimmered faintly, a flicker of hope glowing in the dark. Allie picked it up, her eyes lighting with excitement. She believed it would open one of the doors, a passage perhaps, a way into the world beyond understanding. She tried every door. None fit. Until at the very end of the hallway she noticed a tiny door, so small she had to kneel to see it. Through its keyhole, she caught a glimpse of a wondrous garden, golden light spilling through, flowers glowing in the mist, an air so gentle she could almost hear it breathing. Her heart raced, but when she tried to go through, she realized her body was far too large. The key worked, but she could not pass. Allie sank to the ground, helplessly watching the garden just beyond her reach. On the table, a small bottle had appeared labeled, "Drink me." Allie hesitated, but curiosity soon conquered doubt. She took a sip, and her body began to shrink. Arms, legs, head, all growing smaller, as if her very dream were being folded inward. When she found herself no taller than a cat, she laughed, half terrified, half delighted. But when she looked up, the golden key was once again on the table, now far above her reach. She couldn't climb, couldn't stretch, couldn't open the door again. Then, as if fate were teasing her, she saw a small cake on a plate, marked, "Eat me." Allie took a bite, and immediately her body began to expand. Her head hit the ceiling, her arms jammed against the doorframe, and tears burst from her eyes, a mixture of fear and pain. The tears grew, swelling and spilling, until they became a sea of tears. She wept not only from confusion, but from the realization that she no longer controlled herself. One moment, she was too small to change anything. The next, too large to exist in her old world. She had lost the fragile balance between control and surrender. And in that tension, her sense of self began to dissolve. She looked down at the flood of tears filling the hallway, where light shimmered and rippled, and she realized she was staring into a mirror made of her own chaos. Carl Jung once said, "Water is the commonest symbol for the unconscious." The sea of tears was the unconscious overflowing, breaking through the limits of reason. And in that moment, Allie understood that each drop of water was a part of herself. The fragile, hidden, and long suppressed parts she had never allowed herself to feel. She sat within that water for a long time. And strangely, when the tears stopped falling, her fear faded with them. She realized that whether she grew large or small, whether the key was near or far, the garden was still there, waiting. Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And Allie had stepped into that pain, the pain of transformation. The hallway, with its locked doors, no longer felt frightening. It had become a symbol of growth. Each door was a limit, each key a realization, and every time she grew or shrank was a test, a step toward rediscovering her true form. She could not yet open the garden gate, but she had already unlocked the first door of her soul, the door of humility. She understood now that she could not force herself into perfection. Sometimes, to touch the miraculous, one must learn to change one's own size, to know when to become small, when to stand firm, and when to let go. In the dim light of the corridor, Allie placed her hand upon her chest, feeling her heartbeat merge with the soft sound of flowing water. She knew she was still lost within the maze of her mind, but for the first time, she no longer wished to escape. For somewhere out there, the enchanted garden still awaited. Not for her to run toward it, but for her to become ready to enter. And so, amid the flooded room, Allie smiled softly. Because sometimes, to find the right door, one must first allow oneself to be lost. Part 4. The Living Game. Allie floated amidst the sea of her own tears. The water shimmered like a mirror, reflecting a kind of innocent sorrow. She no longer knew how long she had been crying, only that with every tear that fell, the world became a little stranger. Everything drifted, fragments of memory, nameless emotions, and Allie herself, a lost soul adrift in the ocean of her own being. Then, from afar, soft murmurs rose. A mouse appeared, paddling toward her, its fur soaked, its beady eyes glimmering with a mix of intelligence and panic. Behind it came a duck, a dodo, and several other creatures, each bizarre in its own way, yet all talking, arguing, and laughing. Allie stared in wonder, then laughed too. so she wasn't alone in this sea of tears. "We must get dry somehow," said the dodo, with the solemn voice of a professor. "A race. Whoever runs the most laps will dry first." And just like that, without knowing why, they all began to run in circles on the sand that had only just dried from her tears. The race was chaos, as its name promised, with no starting line, no finish line, and seemingly no rules anyone could understand. They ran, they stopped, they argued, then ran again. Everyone declared themselves the winner, and all cheered, proud and joyful like children. Allie laughed too. She had never played such a game, senseless, yet so full of life. She remembered the days in the human world where everything followed rules, order, and reason. There was always someone who won and someone who lost. But here, in this strange new world, every creature was alive, joyful, and no one needed to be right. Everything seemed to move to its own rhythm, the rhythm of instinct, of nature, of the unconscious singing. In that moment, Allie realized she was in the realm of the unconscious, where there was no logic, no punishment, no reward. Every creature was a small fragment of life, free, chaotic, yet bound by a mysterious natural harmony that reason could never touch. She watched as the mouse lectured about laws it didn't understand. The duck interrupted. The dodo tried to mediate, then ended up arguing with itself. It was all noise and confusion, yet Allie felt an odd sense of warmth, even belonging. She suddenly remembered Carl Jung's words. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct, acting from inner necessity. Allie understood. This chaotic race was not meaningless. It was a ritual of life, a sacred game where every creature was allowed to exist, to laugh, to err, and to be, without justification. In this world, to play was simply another way of to be. Human beings often forget that the instinct to play is the most primitive, yet sacred aspect of the soul. We grow up bound by rules, losing touch with the feeling of simply being ourselves while playing. But here, Allie witnessed pure creative energy, what Jung called the energy of the collective unconscious. Each creature around her was not merely an animal, but a living symbol of different parts of her psyche. The mouse, her fear, the duck, her fleeting emotions, the dodo, her clumsy yet sincere intellect. All danced within her mind, and as they mingled, chaos turned into beauty. Carl Jung once said, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." And that was exactly what was happening. Through this mad, joyful game, Allie was integrating the most irrational parts of herself. She no longer tried to understand. She no longer tried to control. She simply joined in. She played. For a fleeting moment, Allie felt weightless, no longer burdened by the question, "Who am I?" No longer oppressed by the judgment of reason. She was simply alive. Alive with these strange creatures, in a moment so whole that time itself seemed to pause. When the race ended, every creature shouted, "Everyone wins." No one was disappointed. No one demanded a prize. The air was filled with a kind of innocent joy, the joy that exists only in the unconscious, where all energies dissolve freely into one another. Allie smiled. Perhaps this was the true essence of life, a game that seems meaningless to the mind, yet overflows with meaning for the soul. She realized that in this world, every living thing was a symbol of existence itself, needing no reason, no goal. Like human beings, it is only when we stop trying to understand and instead simply exist that we truly become free. The sea of tears had dried. The chaotic race had ended. But within Allie, something had shifted. Light as breath, yet deep as the sea. She felt a new current flowing in her heart, peaceful yet powerful, as if the world had just taught her something no book could ever contain, that life is a game, and happiness does not lie in winning, but in being part of the play. Part 5. The House and the Caterpillar. The path that led Allie away from the chaotic race wound through a misty forest. Light streamed through the canopy, weaving golden ribbons on the ground, as if the world itself were inviting her deeper into its mystery. At a bend in the path, she saw a small moss-covered cottage, smoke curling from a crooked chimney, and the strange scent of herbs drifting through the air. Allie knocked on the door. No one answered. Cautiously, she stepped inside and was immediately startled by a shrill voice shouting, "What are you standing there for? Go get milk for the baby." Confused, Allie hadn't yet grasped what was happening when a peculiar woman placed a red-faced baby into her arms and vanished into the kitchen in a puff of peppery smoke. The baby squirmed, grunting softly, and before Allie could even soothe it, it transformed into a small piglet. Startled, she let go. The creature scampered into the woods and disappeared. Allie gasped. The house was suddenly empty again, filled only with jars and familiar labels that read, "Drink me." She picked up one of them, hesitated, then, as if destiny urged her forward, she drank. At once her body began to swell, filling the room until her head hit the ceiling and her arms jammed against the window. Everything felt tight, suffocating. Panicking, she grabbed another bottle and drank quickly. And this time, she shrank so fast that the world around her expanded like a dream ballooning in reverse. She collapsed, breathing hard, staring at her tiny hands, and laughed through her exhaustion. She no longer knew who she was, a child, a servant, or a speck of dust caught in fate's joke. When she stepped outside, the forest had changed. Every sound seemed to slow. The wind, the birds, even her own breath now carried a deep shade of green. Ahead, perched atop a giant mushroom, a blue caterpillar sat silently, smoking a long pipe. Each puff of smoke drifted upward, floating in the air like memories dissolving into time. Allie approached softly. "Hello?" she said. The caterpillar opened its eyes, looked her up and down, and asked in a deep, gravelly voice, "Who are you?" She froze. Such a simple question, yet it struck her like a stone. I'm not quite sure anymore," she stammered. "I knew who I was this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then." The caterpillar exhaled a thin ring of smoke and nodded slowly. It didn't laugh. It didn't look surprised. It simply remained silent. And that silence unsettled Allie more than words ever could. In that stillness, she understood. This creature wasn't asking for her name. It was asking, "Who are you when there is no shape, no title, no memory left to hold on to?" Allie looked down at her small hands, then at her body. Once large, once small, ever shifting. For the first time, she realized that perhaps the I she clung to was never fixed. Perhaps I was just a temporary shape of the soul. Like the caterpillar, like the smoke. Transforming, rising, and eventually fading away. The caterpillar gazed at her and spoke softly, its voice trailing like a prophecy. "One day, you will become a butterfly." Allie looked up, ready to ask more, but the caterpillar had turned away, drawing one last breath from its pipe before releasing a perfect ring of smoke that rose and dissolved into sunlight. She sat at the base of the mushroom, her thoughts tangled. The words echoed in her mind like a slow, haunting melody. "You will become a butterfly." Perhaps the caterpillar wasn't speaking of a literal future, but of transformation, of how a person becomes themselves only by daring to change, by passing through the darkness within. She remembered all the times she had grown and shrunk, her fear of losing control over her body. And suddenly, she saw it all as lessons in flexibility, in learning to adapt to the unconscious. When she grew large, she was trapped in reason. When she grew small, she was swallowed by fear. But now, beside the caterpillar, she felt she could stand between the two, aware yet unbound. The caterpillar looked at her one last time and whispered, "If you wish to grow, eat from the right side of the mushroom. If you wish to shrink, eat from the left." Allie glanced at the mushroom, split neatly between light and shadow. No instructions, no guarantees. She would have to experiment, to err, to learn, to find her own balance. She broke off a small piece and tasted it. And indeed, the world shifted again. But this time, she did not fear. She smiled, because she finally understood. This was no longer fate's cruel trick, but a lesson in self-mastery and acceptance. When she looked up, the caterpillar was gone. Only a faint blue mist lingered in the air, merging with the light that filtered through the trees. From afar, the wind whispered softly through the leaves, echoing that first question once more. "Who are you?" Allie walked on, her heart light as morning dew. She had no answer, and she no longer needed one, for deep inside she knew that every step she took was the answer. She had begun the journey home, slowly, gently, wrapped in the pale blue haze of a caterpillar's dream about to take flight. Part 6. The Duchess, the Pig, and the Cat. After leaving the blue haze of the forest, and the echo of the caterpillar's question, "Who are you?" still lingering in her mind, Allie followed a narrow dirt path that led to a peculiar house. The sharp scent of pepper filled the air, making her sneeze again and again. The door was ajar, and inside a scene of complete chaos unfolded. Smoke thick as fog, pots and pans clattering, and in the center of it all, a stout woman with a scowling face, furiously shaking a pot in her hands. Every time she threw more pepper into the soup, the entire room seemed to flare up. "Take this child," the woman barked, shoving a red-faced baby into Allie's arms without explanation. Before Allie could respond, the woman vanished into a cloud of stinging smoke. The baby sneezed violently. With each sneeze, its face contorted, redder and redder. Allie tried to soothe it, but the more she did, the more the child writhed and kicked. Until suddenly, it transformed into a small pig. Startled, Allie let go. The piglet hit the ground, squealed, and scurried off into the woods. Allie stood frozen. In that moment, she wasn't only shocked by the absurdity of what had just happened. She felt a strange tenderness, a sorrow without name. She pitied the baby, forced to become something it wasn't, and pitied the woman too, so consumed by anger and restlessness that everything alive around her had begun to distort. She thought to herself, perhaps in this world, when people are too busy with their own rage, too consumed by the pepper of life, the purest parts within them begin to warp and lose shape. Leaving the house, Allie stepped into the garden. The air was unnaturally still. She looked up and suddenly saw a smile floating in midair. From the invisible emptiness, a cat slowly appeared. First its eyes, then its grin, and finally its whole face, curved in a crescent of mischief. But that was all. No body, no shadow, no weight. "Hello," Allie said, half fearful, half curious. "Hello," the cat replied, its voice low and lazy. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm the Cheshire Cat," it answered, grinning wider. "Do you live here?" Allie asked. "Here, there, everywhere," said the cat. "I can appear anywhere, anytime, but more importantly," it looked at her with sly amusement. "We're all mad here," Allie blinked. "Mad?" "Indeed," said the cat. "I'm mad, you're mad. Everyone who comes here is mad. We're all mad here." She laughed, a laugh trembling between fear and delight. There was something oddly sincere about the cat's tone, not mocking, not cruel, simply honest. The cat tilted its head, still smiling. "No one in this world is sane, my dear, and if someone is, they must surely be dreaming." Allie fell silent. She thought about everything she had encountered. The golden key, the shifting sizes, the sea of tears, the chaotic race. Everything had been senseless. Yet the more absurd it became, the more real it felt. She sat down beneath a tree, gazing at the smile that hung above her. "Maybe you're right," she said softly. "If everyone is mad, then no one really is." The cat nodded. "That's a good beginning. When you stop resisting madness, you start to understand it." His words struck her deeply. Yes, All this time, she had tried to make sense of Wonderland through reason, to assign meaning to every strange encounter. But now she realized, this world was not meant to be understood. It was meant to be accepted. The cat's voice drifted through the air, slow and smoky. People fear what they can't reason with. But madness, Allie, isn't a disease. It's the freedom they've lost. She looked up. Its eyes gleamed like two distant stars suspended in emptiness. Carl Jung once wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Perhaps the Cheshire Cat was the embodiment of that secret order, the hidden wisdom within madness, the thread of reason woven through dreams. Allie smiled faintly. "You seem to know a lot." "Not really," said the cat. "I only know that nothing is worth knowing. The only thing that matters is to be mad enough to see clearly." Then it began to fade. First the eyes, then the grin, until nothing was left but the lingering smile, hanging in the air like the trace of an idea that never truly disappears. Allie remained there beneath the trees, watching that faint, crescent smile. It glowed softly like a fragment of the moon, and she felt something stir inside her. A lightness, but one that ran deep. Perhaps, she thought, every soul carries within it a touch of madness, a part caged by reason, waiting for the day it can finally laugh again. The smile of the Cheshire Cat. The smile of one who understands that the world need not be perfect to have meaning. As sunlight streamed through the leaves, Allie rose to her feet. The cat's smile had vanished, but in her mind it remained. A quiet reminder that only by embracing life's absurdity can we begin to understand it. She smiled too, and walked on. And for the first time since she fell into Wonderland, she was no longer searching for the way back. She simply wanted to keep going, no matter how mad the path might be. Part 7. The Queen's Game of Chaos. The gate at the end of the garden swung open, revealing a vast courtyard trimmed to such perfection it felt almost terrifying. Scarlet roses flamed under the sun, deep green hedges lined the path, and giant playing cards, alive yet trembling, painted each petal with shaking hands, startled by the echo of approaching footsteps. The air froze. And then the Queen of Hearts appeared. She did not walk. She seemed to emerge from a storm of her own making. Upon her head, a heavy crown gleamed. Her face was painted ghost white, her lips, crimson like a wound, parted to unleash a voice that thundered across the garden. Let the game begin. Before Allie could even understand what was happening, she was shoved into the middle of a strange croquet match. But instead of ordinary balls and mallets, the balls were hedgehogs curled tightly into spiny spheres, and the mallets, live flamingos. The playing card soldiers stood in rows, trembling as they held up their flags. Allie bent down, trying to position her hedgehog carefully, but as she lifted the flamingo, it craned its neck, stared at her reproachfully, and then flapped its wings, soaring away. The hedgehog rolled a few feet, then stopped, curling up as if laughing softly to itself. The entire scene was a grotesque comedy. The queen roared, "Off with his head!" Her words cracked like thunder across the field. Every card soldier quaked. Some dropped to their knees, others fainted. A man was dragged away, though no one knew what crime he had committed. The air thickened, heavy as the caterpillar's blue smoke. Only this time, it smelled not of herbs, but of fear. Allie stood still, her heart pounding. She felt trapped inside a dream, where every rule was written by rage, and life itself had become a toy for power. The Queen. She was the embodiment of what Jung called the inflated ego, the self swollen with its own illusion of dominance. Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "Inflation is a puffed-up attitude to which the human being is prone. It causes the ego to take itself for the self." Allie watched closely. Every being in that garden was playing a part in this meaningless theater. Each one was terrified, pretending to be joyful just to survive another round. The queen laughed, not a laugh of joy, but of someone desperate to drown out her own fear. And suddenly, Allie understood. The Queen's cry, "Off with his head," wasn't truly aimed at others. It was a scream against her own weakness. She could not bear the sight of life disobeying her, nor could she face the chaos within herself, the wild, uncontrollable unconscious that refused to bow to her will. In Psychology and Religion, Jung wrote, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking." Allie looked around. There was no love here, only power and fear, and she realized that when the ego seeks to rule the unconscious, it builds only a kingdom of terror. She bent down, picked up the small, trembling hedgehog, and whispered, "It's all right. We don't have to play anymore." The entire court froze. The Queen spun around, eyes blazing. "What did you say?" Allie met her gaze. In those furious eyes she saw not hatred but pain, the deep buried terror of losing control. In the undiscovered self, Jung wrote, "Through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves. But deep down below the surface of the average conscience, a still, small voice says to us, something is out of tune." And Allie heard that voice within herself, the quiet truth that had always been there, waiting beneath the noise. "Your Majesty," she said softly, "if this game makes everyone afraid, then no one ever truly wins." Silence fell. Every creature held its breath. The Queen's eyes widened, fury flickering into confusion. For a heartbeat, Allie thought she would shout, "Off with her head," again. But instead, the Queen let out a hollow laugh, an empty echo of power. Allie took a step back, then turned away. She realized she didn't need to win a mad woman's game. Winning and losing were both illusions, masks worn by the same delusion of control. As she passed through the final gate of the court, the Queen's screams still echoed behind her, but now they sounded distant, like the fading voice of an ego collapsing under its own weight. She stepped back into the garden. Sunlight poured over her face. The wind brushed through her hair, carrying the scent of grass and roses. And in that gentle stillness, Allie smiled. She understood now that this strange, chaotic, and absurd world was nothing more than a mirror, reflecting the endless struggle between reason and the unconscious within every soul. As she walked along the grassy path, a familiar voice drifted through the breeze, the Cheshire Cat's, soft and amused. "You see, Allie, we're all mad here. The only difference is that now you know how mad you are." Allie laughed, because perhaps, as Jung once said, in all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order. And within the Queen's game of chaos, Allie had found that secret order, the quiet awakening of her own soul. Part 8. The Philosopher Duchess Returns. After the chaotic afternoon at the croquet field, Allie wandered through the vast garden where sunlight filtered through the leaves like shards of broken mirrors. The Queen's cries of "off with his head" still echoed faintly behind her, yet here the wind was gentler and the air had grown calm. She walked until she noticed a narrow, mossy path leading into a smaller garden, faintly scented with pepper. And there, waiting for her, stood the Duchess, no longer the frantic woman from the smoky kitchen, no longer clutching the wailing baby that had turned into a pig. Now the Lady Duchess appeared strangely serene, her face pale as porcelain, her lips curved softly, her voice smooth as silk, yet her eyes were empty, like a mask without a soul. "Oh, my dear Allie," she cooed, "how wonderful to see you again. I've just been thinking of something terribly profound." Allie lifted her head. "And what is that, madam?" "Everything's got a moral, if only you can find it," the Duchess said, savoring each word as though she had just discovered the ultimate truth of the universe. Allie smiled faintly. The phrase sounded wise, but from the Duchess's lips, it rang hollow, like a bell that glimmers with tone but carries no echo inside. The Duchess began her sermon, speaking fluently and endlessly, about how one must live morally, be selfless, obey their superiors, and always find meaning in suffering. Her voice was gentle, yet each word carried the blade of expectation. She stepped closer, so close Allie could feel the sharp point of her chin brush against her shoulder. It was meant to be affectionate, yet Allie shivered. That pointed chin felt like a symbol, the weight of a moral dogma pressing against the breath of one's true self, suffocating the innocence of the soul. Allie drew back slightly. "But what if," she asked softly, "some things only bring pain, and no meaning at all?" The Duchess chuckled lightly. "Oh, my dear, that's only because you're not obedient enough to understand." In that smile, Allie saw the falseness of goodness, the kind that exists only when others submit. It was a subtler form of violence, binding others through advice, convincing them that they are wrong simply for daring to live truthfully. And in that instant, Allie understood. The Lady Duchess was no longer merely a person, but a reflection within her own psyche, a symbol of society, of the inner voices that whisper to each of us, "You must be right. You must be perfect. You must be accepted." Jung once wrote, "The greatest sin is to be unconscious." The Duchess embodied that unconsciousness, dressed in moral disguise, preaching virtue without understanding its essence, speaking of righteousness without ever facing her own shadow. Allie said nothing. She simply stood, gazing at the waxen face before her. A breeze stirred, carrying away the peppery scent and the faint fragrance of roses. In her mind, a voice, perhaps her own soul, whispered, "True morality needs no teaching. It only needs truth." The Duchess went on about life lessons, with an almost arrogant confidence, but the more she spoke, the more her voice blurred. Like an old record, its grooves worn thin, unable to play the same melody again. And in her eyes, Allie caught a flicker of exhaustion, the fatigue of someone who had pretended to know everything for far too long. Jung once said, in Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, "There can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without emotion." And Allie realized the Duchess felt nothing. She no longer knew what her own heart was saying. Her words were echoes, not feelings. "I truly mean it," the Duchess murmured. "One day, you'll understand." Allie looked at her kindly and replied, "Perhaps, but when I do, I hope I'll still be myself." The Duchess did not answer. The air shifted. From a distance came the rustle of silk and the heavy thud of footsteps. The unmistakable voice of the Queen of Hearts shouting once more. The Duchess's face paled, her smile froze. She stepped back and then, before Allie could blink, she vanished, leaving behind only the faint sting of pepper in the air. Allie stood quietly. In that final silence, she felt as though a chain had been lifted, the chain of moral pretense, of rules without soul. Sunlight fell across her face, gentle as a hand in blessing. She whispered, "Not everything needs a lesson. Some things only need to be lived, to be felt, and that is enough." In The Undiscovered Self, Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Allie smiled. She knew the Duchess was not truly gone. That voice would return, the one that whispers inside every heart saying, "Be good, be right." But next time she would smile, place her hand over her heart, and answer softly, "I choose to be myself." And with that, she stepped onto the sunlit path ahead. Beyond it, the garden opened wide, vibrant and alive. No more lessons, no more philosophies, only life, love, and a soul slowly awakening. Part 9. The Mock Turtle's Lament. Dusk was falling. The sky of Wonderland hung like a veil of mist, fading slowly into the violet hue of twilight. From afar, the sound of waves echoed, rhythmic and deep, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Allie followed Griff, a curious creature, half eagle, half lion, along a narrow path that wound its way to the sea. The wind blew sharply, carrying the salt of the ocean and the faint scent of seaweed. And there, upon a lonely rock by the shore, she saw Sir Mock Turtle, a turtle with eyes so sorrowful it seemed as if he had been weeping his entire life. When they approached, he lifted his head. His large, glistening eyes looked as though they contained the sea itself. "Ah, the old days," he murmured, voice low and hollow. "When I was a real turtle." Griff nodded gently and whispered to Allie, "He will tell you his story. But you must listen with your heart, not your ears." Sir Mock Turtle began to speak, his voice slow, rising and falling like the tide. He spoke of a school beneath the sea where young creatures studied strange subjects: ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision. They memorized lessons, took tests, listened to lectures, yet no one ever knew why. Each class ended with a collective sigh. Allie listened, both amused and touched. But when he continued, his voice trembled, and tears once again filled his eyes. "We learned everything, except how to be ourselves." The words struck Allie like a revelation. She realized that beneath the absurdity, there was something hauntingly true, a mirror reflecting the human world. Carl Jung once wrote, "We are so captivated by the outer world that we have forgotten our inner one." The underwater school was, in truth, an allegory of human society, a place where everyone studies relentlessly to be accepted, to be admired, to climb higher. Yet no one ever teaches the art of listening to the small, quiet voice of the soul. Sir Mock Turtle sniffled, wiped his tears, and suddenly exclaimed, "But learning is not enough. We must dance too." "Dance?" Allie asked in surprise. "Of course, the grandest dance of the sea, the lobster quadrille." Griff chuckled hoarsely, and the two creatures began to dance. They swayed and spun, singing and weeping, their movements as chaotic as fate itself. "Will you? Won't you? Will you? Won't you? Will you join the dance?" Allie watched, half amused, half melancholic, and suddenly realized this was humanity. Everyone was dancing, dancing between fear and longing, between the desire to live and the terror of being truly alive. Jung once wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "Man cannot stand a meaningless life." And to escape that emptiness, people have invented countless meaningless dances: work, ambition, religion, reputation, moral codes. Rules built not for truth, but to keep their minds from collapsing into silence. They keep spinning, believing they are moving forward, when in truth, they are simply circling the same void. Sir Mock Turtle sank to the sand, sighing deeply. "I've been dancing all my life," he said, staring out toward the horizon, "and I've never gone anywhere." Griff laughed softly, his wings folding. "But at least," he said, "we danced together." Allie did not laugh. A gentle ache rose in her chest, a sorrow not for him alone, but for all who shared his loneliness. She understood that the Mock Turtle's grief was the grief of all humanity. Souls adrift in a world that had forgotten what it means to truly live. Quietly, she said, "Maybe the dance itself isn't wrong. We've just forgotten why we began to dance." The turtle looked at her, and his eyes gleamed, like a star reflected upon the sea. "Child, perhaps you're right." A gust of wind swept across the shore, carrying the scent of salt and kelp. Griff spread his wings and whispered, "Each soul has its own dance, but only those who dare to pause can hear the true music." Allie gazed out to the open sea. The waves rolled endlessly. Beneath them, millions of creatures moved in silence, a timeless waltz of nature itself. No one was wrong. No one was right. There was only life, endlessly expressing itself through form and change. Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." And perhaps, even within that absurd dance, there was something real, a hidden rhythm connecting all souls. Sir Mock Turtle began to sing again, this time slower, deeper. Beautiful soup, so rich and green, waiting in a hot tureen. His voice mingled with the wind and the tide. And in that strange song, Allie thought she could hear her own heartbeat. Sad, fragile, yet profoundly human. When the song ended, Griff spoke softly. "Come, there's still one more place you must go." Allie bowed to Sir Mock Turtle. He did not answer, only smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. As she turned away, the echo of his song followed her. Will you? Won't you, will you? Won't you? Won't you join the dance? The question was no longer for her alone. It was for every soul in this world. For all who keep dancing and searching, forgetting that a dance is only beautiful when you remember why it began. Allie smiled as she walked into the sunset. She didn't know what awaited her ahead, but she knew this. Within the mock turtle's lament, she had heard the voice of humankind, the quiet cry of hearts that had forgotten how to dream. Part 10. The Trial of the Tarts. That morning, the air in Wonderland felt different. There was no wind, and the sunlight seemed filtered through a thick velvet curtain. Yellow, dim, and tense. Allie was escorted by the card soldiers to the palace of Queen Regina of Hearts, where a grand trial was about to begin. They say, whispered one of the cards, that the knave, Jack the Knave, stole the queen's tarts. Tarts? Allie echoed, half amused, half bewildered. All this for a few pastries, but no one answered. The entire procession marched on in silence, solemn as though escorting someone to their execution. When Allie stepped into the grand hall, she held her breath. The room was vast, like a cathedral, the ceiling soaring so high that light fell in sharp golden spears. At the center sat King Harold, small and nervous beside Queen Regina, her face pale as marble, lips red as blood, chin raised high in cold authority. Before them lay a long table draped in white, upon which rested the supposed evidence, a plate of golden tarts, perfect and glistening, radiating the scent of butter and sweet almonds. The sight was so absurdly ceremonial that Allie almost laughed at the gravity surrounding something so trivial. "Let the trial begin," the king proclaimed, his voice echoing, though it quivered like a man pretending to be strong. Allie took a seat at the back, watching quietly. The trial commenced. The White Rabbit, now dressed as a court clerk, stepped to the front, unrolled a long scroll, and read the charges in a shrill voice. The Queen of Hearts. She made some tarts, all on a summer day. The Knave of Hearts. He stole those tarts and took them quite away. The entire court nodded solemnly, as though this nursery rhyme were unquestionable law. Allie looked around and realized that every creature in the hall was performing a role: judge, witness, guard, yet none of them seemed to understand why they were there. The knave, trembling, lifted his head. "Your Majesty," he pleaded, "I swear I—" "Silence," the queen thundered. "Who allowed you to speak before being called upon?" A chill ran down Allie's spine. The air grew heavy, thick with the stench of authority and fear. The first witness called was the Mad Hatter. Still wearing his crooked hat, he clutched a teacup nervously, looking utterly misplaced in this court of chaos. "Name?" the king asked. "Hatter," he replied, voice shaking. "Occupation?" "Drinking tea, Your Majesty." The court erupted in laughter, but it was laughter without warmth. Next came the March Hare, the Dormouse, and even a strange bird. Each testified, yet none said anything meaningful. Every statement deepened the absurdity, a spiral of confusion without beginning or end. Carl Jung once wrote, "Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism." Allie suddenly understood. Everyone in this courtroom was addicted. Not to drink or drugs, but to the illusion of order and control. They worshipped law, guilt, verdict, not because they sought truth, but because they feared chaos, the chaos within their own souls. The trial dragged on. Every few minutes, the queen would roar, "Off with his head," at anyone who displeased her. Meaningless accusations piled upon one another like bricks of absurdity, building a fortress of delusion. Allie could barely breathe under the weight of it. Then something strange began to happen. She felt herself growing, slowly, steadily. Each time the queen screamed, each time another lie was spoken, Allie grew taller. She looked down and saw the creatures shrinking beneath her, the floor tightening, the chairs sinking. When King Harold finally shouted, "Rule 42, all persons more than a mile high must leave the court," Allie laughed. "That's not a real rule," she said calmly. "You just made it up." The hall fell silent. Every gaze turned toward her. Queen Regina's hands clenched into fists, her face drained of color. "Sentence first, verdict afterwards," the queen shrieked. Allie stood. Her voice rose clear and strong, filling the chamber. "That's nonsense. This whole trial is nonsense." The world broke apart. The cards flew upward like a flock of mad birds. A violent wind erupted, tearing through the hall, scattering thrones, rules, judgments, fear, and guilt alike. Everything dissolved into a storm of pure meaninglessness. Carl Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And in that storm, Allie understood something profound. Awakening begins the moment we dare to name falsehood for what it is. When the wind finally stilled, she found herself lying beneath a tree, her head resting on her sister's lap. Sunlight filtered gently through the leaves, dancing across her face. Her white dress was dusted with fallen petals, and birds were singing somewhere far away. The world looked peaceful, yet she knew something inside her had changed. She whispered almost to herself, "They were just cards, nothing more." Her sister smiled softly, stroking her hair. "But you saw the truth within your dream, Allie. Not everyone dares to do that." Allie gazed up at the sky, calm, bright, infinite, and somewhere within that stillness she heard Jung's voice echo through her soul. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The trial of Wonderland had only been a dream, but it revealed a deeper truth, that we are all living inside countless trials of our own making, where the ego plays the judge, fear acts as the prosecutor, and the soul, silent and patient, stands accused. Yet all it takes, once in a lifetime, is the courage to say, like Allie did, "This is nonsense." And in that moment, the chairs, the thrones, and the verdicts within us will scatter like cards in the wind. For then, we cease to be the ones on trial within the dream, and awaken as the ones who finally step out of it. Part 11. The Revolt and Awakening. The courtroom of Wonderland seemed frozen in a moment of absurd stillness. It no longer felt like a court of law, but rather a stage, where every creature performed a role in a play that was never real. Queen Regina, dressed in a gown the color of blood, stood tall upon her dais, pointing at Allie as her voice cracked through the air like thunder. Sentence first, verdict afterwards. What sounded like a simple decree was, in truth, the proclamation of a disordered unconscious, a world where reason was replaced by power, and justice twisted into fear. Every card fell to its knees, every creature bowed, and silence swept across the hall. Only one remained standing, Allie. She was no longer the little girl lost in the forest of her unconscious. After her strange encounters, the caterpillars, "Who are you?" the Cheshire cats, were all mad here, and the mock turtle's lonely laughter by the sea. She had begun to see that this world was no longer reality. It was her own mind. Carl Jung once wrote in The Red Book, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And in that instant, Allie no longer saw the world through the frightened eyes of a child, but through the calm, lucid gaze of one on the verge of awakening. The queen shouted again, "Off with her head!" The cry echoed like a command from the deepest layers of the human psyche, the voice of fear itself, fear of losing control, fear of confronting the darkness within. But Allie stood still. She did not run. She did not beg. Something radiant stirred within her, a light clearer than any sunlight. "Stuff and nonsense," she declared, her tone calm, yet her voice rang out like a bell through the void. The chamber trembled. The white rabbit dropped the scroll. The king stammered incoherently, and the queen froze. It was as though the logic of this entire world had been torn apart. Allie stepped forward, her eyes gleaming. She looked straight into the Queen's, the embodiment of the ruling ego, the voice that commands, judges, and believes itself to be truth incarnate. But this time, there was no submission. "You're nothing but a pack of cards." The words struck like lightning through illusion. Instantly, the world began to unravel. Cards whirled into the air, spinning wildly in a storm of red and white. Thrones toppled, the courtroom dissolved, and the Queen's screams scattered into the wind. Every shape, every rule, every law disintegrated. Nothing but fragile scraps of paper swept away by truth. Allie closed her eyes, feeling the collapse not as destruction, but as revelation. Carl Jung called this moment individuation, the sacred union of consciousness and the unconscious, when one finally sees oneself not through society's mirror, but through the light of the soul. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung wrote, "Only the man who can consciously assent to the power of the inner voice becomes a personality." Allie had heard that voice. It told her she no longer needed to be afraid, that the Queen's power existed only because she had believed in it. Now, she no longer did. The wind rose around her, and Allie felt lighter than air. No more rules, no more guilt, no more judgment, only a vast, silent peace. The stillness of someone who finally understands. A flood of white light filled the world. And then, like the ending of a dream, everything dissolved. When Allie opened her eyes, she was lying beneath the riverside tree, her head resting in her sister's lap. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, soft as breath. The wind whispered through the grass. Birds sang somewhere far away. Everything seemed calm, almost too calm. Was it all a dream? But deep inside, she knew. It wasn't. It had been a journey of the soul. Her sister smiled gently, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "What did you dream, Allie?" Allie's voice came soft but steady, the voice of someone who had awoken from more than just sleep. "I dreamed that all my fears were nothing but cards." Her sister laughed softly, but in Allie's eyes shone something deeper, a glimmer of someone who had seen herself. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that was exactly what Allie had done. By facing her fears, naming the illusions, and daring to laugh at their power, she had become herself. The afternoon sunlight stretched across the grass. Allie rose and gazed out toward the river, where light shimmered upon the water. The confusion of the child was gone, replaced by the stillness of one who has weathered the storm. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew this: no world could ever frighten her again, now that she had seen her own soul. She smiled and whispered, "It was all just a pack of cards." And somewhere in the wind, like a distant echo, came Jung's voice, deep, serene, and warm. "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Allie stood, the wind brushing through her hair, and at that delicate boundary between dream and reality, she understood the dream had not ended. It had only just begun. Part 12. The Return and Reflection. Morning light filtered gently through the trees, scattering into soft streaks upon the grass. Somewhere, a bird sang, its voice as light as the sigh of nature itself. Allie opened her eyes. She lay still for a moment, blinking, as if unsure whether she was awake or still dreaming. The scent of earth, the fragrance of flowers, the warmth of the wind, everything appeared so vivid, so strangely new, as though the world had just been created again. By the riverbank, her sister still sat reading, a book open in her lap. When she noticed Allie stir, she smiled softly. "Awake already, my little dreamer?" Allie sat up, still dazed. The images of her dream flooded back. Queen Regina, the Cheshire Cat, the Mock Turtle, the Caterpillar, and the swirling storm of cards. She didn't know where to begin. Everything seemed absurd, and yet frighteningly real. "I just had the strangest dream," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. There were talking creatures, a game without rules, and a queen who kept shouting, "Off with their heads." But I wasn't afraid. Isn't that strange? Her sister tilted her head and listened in silence. As Allie spoke, her tone grew more animated. Her eyes glowed with the innocent wonder of a child describing something miraculous she had just seen. She spoke of the endless fall, of locked doors, of a body and soul that could stretch and shrink, of questions that no one could answer. Each word was a fragment of a memory, half awake, half dreaming. When she reached the end, the moment she faced the queen and cried, "You're nothing but a pack of cards," her voice slowed. A faint smile curved her lips. And then everything disappeared. Only the wind remained. Her sister said nothing. In her eyes shimmered a distant look, as though she, too, had begun to drift into that same dream. Carl Jung once wrote in Man and His Symbols, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul." And perhaps that little door had just opened, within them both. Her sister imagined Allie in the future, no longer the bright-eyed girl sitting by the river, but a grown woman, telling this same story to other children, her voice gentle as wind, her gaze clear as water, her heart still unspoiled by time. The thought made her smile, for she understood that dreams are not mere tricks of the mind. They are the soul's journey toward maturity, the path by which one learns to listen inwardly and then return to the world with a voice both tender and wise. Jung once wrote in The Red Book, "The way is within us, but not in God's, nor in teachings, nor in laws. Within us is the way, the truth, and the life." Allie had walked that path, from the depths of the unconscious into the light of awareness. Now she sat quietly, hands resting on her knees, eyes gazing far into the glittering river. The world seemed ordinary, yet within her, everything had changed. She could sense what she had never felt before, that everything around her was alive, reflecting a part of her soul. The butterfly, the blade of grass, the flowing water, all speaking the same silent language. Carl Jung called this individuation, the moment when the boundary between inner and outer, dream and reality, ego and soul, dissolves into unity. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Allie closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She understood now. Everything that had happened in the dream was not fate, but an invitation to truly see herself. The afternoon sunlight turned to gold. The breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass. Her sister closed the book and looked at her thoughtfully. "What are you thinking about, Allie?" Allie smiled. "I was just thinking, maybe Wonderland still exists. Not out there, but inside me." Her sister nodded gently, saying nothing more. They sat together in stillness, listening to the wind brushing through the meadow, watching the sun sink slowly behind the trees. In the fading light, Allie thought she saw the faint shape of the Cheshire Cat among the golden rays. It grinned, then vanished. She laughed softly. "It's all real," she whispered, "and it's all a dream." Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That sentence echoed in Allie's mind like a farewell, a benediction for the journey she had completed, the journey of a child lost in the shadows who finally found light within herself. Dusk deepened. The two sisters stood walking along the narrow path bathed in the last glow of day. The breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and young grass. Allie glanced back at the river, the place where she had slept, where a dream had changed everything. And as she turned away, she heard a small warm voice rising from deep within her heart. "Dreams never end, Allie. They simply continue today in another form." She smiled, her steps light, her gaze serene. And so, Wonderland lived on, not somewhere far away, but within the heart of the one who dared to look inside.